All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us for our virtual college visit series. We are very fortunate today to have Miss Lauren Bennett from the University of Richmond join us. She is going to share some wonderful information with you all about U of R and also give you time to ask any questions that you might have. We do ask that as you have questions, if you could please enter them into the chat and we will get to them as soon as possible. So my name is Mrs. Edwards. I'm the career counselor with both Atlee and Patrick Henry High Schools. We also have with us today Miss April Corbin.
Hi, I'm Miss Corbin. I'm the career counselor at Hanover High School and HCPS High School, formerly Lee Davis High School.
Thank you. All right, Miss Bennett, we are going to just hand it right over to you to get started.
Okay, sounds great. Well, as your counselors were saying, thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to, in the chat box, throw in a link if you wouldn't mind. I'm just registering for today's event so that we can have record that you've attended, and you will also receive a thank you email from me. So if you have any questions, just hit reply and it will come straight to my email. So again, also put any questions that you have in the chat box, and I will try to get to those throughout the presentation or at the end. So let's see. Okay, so the University of Richmond, obviously we have to start out by bragging about ourselves. We were just most recently named the most beautiful campus in the nation. So if you have not had a chance to check out our campus, I would highly recommend you do so. Currently, we are not holding in-person events, so we don't have any tours, in-person tours going on right now. We have a lot of different virtual events going on. And then we also have a self-guided walking and driving tour. So if you find yourself on campus, we have QR codes where you can download the map and you can take a walking tour, or if you just want to stay in your car and drive around, we actually have audio clips where you can listen to our tour guides give the stops as they would have if you were there in person. So there's a lot of different options for you to come check us out. To give you an overview, the University of Richmond is a highly selective private liberal arts institution. We are an institution of about 3,000 undergraduate students. So I like to say we're like the Goldilocks size. We're not too big, we're not too small, we're right in the middle. So you will walk across campus, see people that you know, but you'll also see a lot of unfamiliar faces. So when you walk in a class, you'll have friends, but you'll also meet lots of new people every time, which is always exciting to hear about new perspectives and get to meet a lot of new people. I know myself, I do not know 3,000 people, so you will definitely meet new people all the time. But we really value that small classroom setting. So 99% of your classes will have 30 students or fewer, and your average class size is going to be around 17 students. So probably smaller than your classes that you have at your high school right now. So there's a lot of class discussion. You are never in a 250-person lecture hall where your professor doesn't know your name. Your professors will be your mentors, they'll be your advisors, they'll be there to help you with recommendation letters, give advice on career paths, and they will also be there to help with research. So we have a ton of faculty. We have an 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So again, really there to help you find internships and get research exposure. So something that's really unique about Richmond is that we have something called the Richmond Guarantee. And it's $4,000 that's guaranteed to every undergraduate student for an internship or a research project. So say you want to spend the summer doing research, you could live on campus, or with you all being pretty local, you could live at home, but we'll still pay you the $10 an hour, 40 hours a week, 10 weeks over the summer. So you'll make that $4,000 to do a research project with a faculty member. Or say you get an internship that's unpaid or underpaid, so maybe it only pays $7.25 an hour, we'll subsidize that up to the $10 an hour. So we never want funding to be a reason why you aren't able to partake in those extra experiential learning opportunities. So we know you're going to get a great education inside the classroom, but we also want to make sure that you are able to take advantage of those opportunities outside the classroom to build your resume and really stand out to help with your life beyond Richmond. I mentioned we are a liberal arts institution, so that means when you're applying to Richmond, you are not applying into a major or into a particular school. You are just applying to the University of Richmond. You will not declare your major until your sophomore year, so you have a lot of time to come on campus, take some classes, explore, see what you're interested in. Maybe you know you want to study history or English. You can start taking those classes as soon as you step foot on campus. You just won't declare until your sophomore year. So technically you will come in under our School of Arts and Sciences, which majority of our students will remain because it does house majority of our majors and minors. But we also have two other undergraduate schools. We have our Robbins School of Business, which houses our most popular major, business administration, along with accounting and economics. Now, for the School of Business, during your sophomore year, it's a non-competitive application process, which means you just basically have to check off a few things. You have to have a few prerequisite courses, have a certain GPA, and pass an Excel proficiency exam, and then you're able to declare in the School of Business. With business administration, you do have to have a concentration. So say you're thinking about finance or marketing or management, those are considered concentrations under the business administration major. So it's equivalent to having a marketing degree from another institution. The way it's set up is basically your sophomore into the beginning of your junior year, you're taking those foundation business courses. And then the end of your junior into your senior year, you'll take those upper level electives based on whatever your concentration is. So those marketing or finance or international business courses. We also have the Jepson School of Leadership Studies, which we are very proud of. We were the first leadership studies school in the entire country, and 30 other institutions have gone on to model their leadership studies schools after ours. So we are very proud of that. And what it does is you will look at leaders in the past, in the present, look at what has made them successful, unsuccessful, what type of tactics do they use, what would make a successful leader in the future. And you'll look at this from a very interdisciplinary lens. So you'll look at it from a business lens, psychological, sociological, just very interdisciplinary. And you're not learning how to be a leader, you're just learning at what's made them successful and how to be successful, through whatever career you choose. So you'll do a lot of negotiation, public speaking, writing, skills that are used in every job out there. So students go on to be in education, politics, business. We just had a student who graduated and is now a corporate trainer at Mercedes. So honestly, anything that you can think of that will really help you. It's also a conversation starter. People don't know what it is. So it's a great way to kind of stand out with your resume and have a conversation with an employer. Now, it's kind of built into our curriculum that if you're interested in having multiple areas of study, you are able to do that very easily and still graduate in 4 years. It's not required, but I think a lot of times students at Richmond just have so many interests that they start taking a few classes here and there, and then they realize 2 or 3 more classes and I have a minor in this particular field. So why not just go for it? Because they know that they'll still be able to graduate in the 4 years. So 2 out of 3 students at Richmond have more than a major. So whether that's a double major, major and a minor, a major and a concentration, it's very easy to do. And you could do that across schools as well. So say you wanted to be an English major and a leadership studies minor, or a business major and a political science major. You're able to do that across the schools. Now, while our students are very busy in the classroom and doing research and internships, we also make sure that they have time to study abroad if that's something they're interested in. About 67% of our students will study abroad at some point during their time at Richmond, which is an amazing number. We're very proud of that. It's not required, but we just make it so easy for students to go abroad that they take advantage. As someone who did not study abroad during college, I highly recommend, if you are considering it, do it, because once you get a job, it is so hard to take off the time to go study abroad. So take full advantage, fully immerse yourself, and we have advisors who will meet with you to find a program that fits your needs and that you feel comfortable going to, that will help find what courses can transfer over to Richmond so that you still are able to graduate in the 4 years. Something that's very unique to Richmond is that we have a $1,000 stipend that all students who are going abroad, we just write you a $1,000 check and you get to decide what to do with it. So maybe you need help covering airfare fees or passport or visa fees, or maybe when you're abroad, you want to take a train to Spain for the weekend, or go see the World Cup, or go to a museum. You can use that $1,000 however you would like. Students study abroad over a semester, over the summer. You can do a year-long program. We also have some classes that include an abroad component. So maybe over the fall, you'll be studying about a particular literature in a country or history, and then there's actually a week or two component over winter break where you'll actually go to visit that country. So these are just some pictures of our students across the globe. As you can see, this in Italy, that is our D1 women's lacrosse team. They were able to go abroad. So truly, if you are a pre-med double major, if you are involved in a D1 sport, we will be able to find a way to get you abroad if that's something that you're interested in. Students typically study abroad. The traditional path is the fall semester of their junior year. And I think majority of students do that because they know that all their friends will be away off campus at the same time and they won't be missing out on everything going on because we have so much that goes on our campus. We have over 180 clubs and organizations, which for a school of our size is an amazing amount. We have pretty much everything you can think of. We have political clubs, we have social justice, we have community service, we have clubs that involve activities, so like equestrian, knitting clubs. We have a lot of sport clubs and intramurals. But if we don't have something that you're interested in, it's very easy to start a club at Richmond. About 2/3 of our students will participate in community service, so that is very big on our campus. And then, as I mentioned, with Division I, we do have 17 Division I sports, so we would love to go show our Spider Pride and cheer on our fellow students, or you can be involved in those sports if that's something that you're interested in. We jokingly say you never have to go to the Spider Shop, which is our bookstore, because if you go to a few games, you will have an excessive amount of gear thrown at you, so you will never have to buy some Spider gear. My husband is an alum, and I can attest we have drawers filled of old shirts that I wish he would get rid of, but he can't. They have a lot of memories, so you really will get a ton of Spider gear if you go to the games. We're hopeful that we'll have a basketball season. We are, I think, ranked 15th in the nation, so really hopeful that we'll be able to have that season and that COVID will be behind us soon. So as you all know, Richmond is a pretty centrally located town within the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're about 6 miles from downtown Richmond, so we are in the suburbs of Richmond. It takes about 15-20 minutes to get downtown. We have a bus that will take you to downtown, a bus that will take you to Regency Mall, Short Pump, Willow Lawn, all of the surrounding areas, so you don't have to have a car, but you are able to bring a car as early as your first year if you would like. This year was a little different. Our first year students were unable to bring cars because we needed some space to be able to have some modular housing for quarantine, isolation, things like that. But we're very hopeful this was a one-time thing. And next year we'll be able to go back to allowing all students to have a car. And if you needed a car, you're able to fill out a waiver and get that. 90% of our students will live on campus all 4 years, but it is not required. So if you wanted to try to save some money, with you all being relatively local, you could stay at home and commute into Richmond. But about 90% will live on campus all 4 years. And there's a ton going on our campus and in the surrounding area, so we don't really like to leave Richmond too often, but we say we're about a day trip away from anything you could want to do, about 2 hours away from the mountains, 2 hours from Virginia Beach, and depending on traffic on 95, about 2 hours from DC. So that's a little unreliable, you never know, could be 5 hours, but we're about a day trip away. But again, don't really like to leave Richmond too much with everything on campus and in the surrounding areas. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears to make sure we have enough time to talk about the application and answer any questions you all have. So I'd like to start out by giving you an overview of our most recently admitted class. So this is our class of 2024, our freshmen that are on campus. And this just gives you an idea of the demographics of the students that are on campus for that incoming class. And about 14% of them are from the Commonwealth of Virginia. For our overall student body, it's about 17%. Virginia is actually the most represented state on our campus. So about 17% overall are from the Commonwealth. And each incoming class is about 830 students. And something that's not on this screen that I think is so interesting is of the 830 students, they come from over 600 high schools. So there's a high likelihood that you will come on campus and probably not know anyone or be the only one from your high school. But that's really exciting and it's really great because you get to meet all new people, hear from different backgrounds, different perspectives. So that's always a really fun, exciting thing to think that you would be the only one from your high school going to Richmond. So at Richmond, we review applications holistically, which if you've been to any other presentation, I'm sure you've heard many times before. But at Richmond, I really do feel that we review applications differently. We receive over 12,000 applications for that 830 spots. So we spend a lot of time digging in and getting to know you as an individual and as a person. And we spend a lot of time considering fit. So are we a good fit for you, and will you be a good fit for our campus? We are highly selective, which means we do spend some time looking at your academics because we want to make sure that you're going to be successful when you are here at Richmond. But we do spend a lot of time looking at other things outside of academics. So that personal side of the application, your essays, your extracurriculars, your recommendation letters, really getting to know you beyond that test score and that GPA. So when you apply to Richmond, you will receive something called your Spider portal. It's a login to an online portal. Most schools have this nowadays, and it's a great tool so you don't have to email us to check the status of your application. You are able to log in and see what outstanding items you have. Is your application complete? And it is eventually where we will release decisions. So for Richmond, you will receive that portal once you apply to Richmond, and you can do that through the common application or the coalition application. We have no preference in which application you use. Whatever is easiest for you, feel free to do. Both applications have a personal essay that any school you're applying to using that application will be able to review. And then we also have an additional required essay. So it's a Richmond question. It's 650 words or less. We have 3 topics you can choose from. It's just a way for us to get to know you a little bit more. Remember, I mentioned that fit factor. So we're spending a lot of time really diving in to see, are you a student that we think will be a good leader across our campus, be involved in things? And that's a chance for us to kind of get to know you a little bit better and make that decision. So I did mention that we look at academics. Those are very important qualities of your application, but we spend a lot of time diving into your transcript. So we don't just look at your GPA and make a decision. We spend a lot of time looking at the classes that you're taking, the rigorous course load that you're taking. We receive something from your counselors. It's a secondary school report. It's basically a school profile that lets us know what classes are offered to you. What does a rigorous course load look like? Is there a cap on the amount of APs you're allowed to take? Do you have an IB curriculum? Are dual enrollment the highest level that's offered? All of that information is included in the school profile. We also have admission representatives. So I'm your admission rep. I'm very familiar with the area. I actually grew up in Fredericksburg, so I went to a public Virginia high school myself, but we familiarize ourselves with the area and get to know your high school so that we can make an appropriate assessment on the rigor of your transcript. We do look at not only the classes you're taking, but really diving in and looking at the grades you're getting to make that assessment. Now, recommendation letters, we only require 1 letter of recommendation from your school or college counselor. Typically, I would recommend that you submit at least 1 additional letter of recommendation, especially this year for my seniors, if you are going to take advantage of our test optional route. So for this year only, we will make a decision in the spring for our juniors, but for my seniors who are applying to start next fall, we have a test optional policy where you can apply to Richmond and still be considered for merit aid and not submit any standardized tests. We know it was extremely hard to find a testing location. We have students calling saying, should I drive 5 or 6 hours to West Virginia to take this test? Please don't feel like you need to do that. We know this has been an extremely stressful time just to be a human, let alone a student applying to college. So we don't want to add an extra stressor on you. So if you were able to take the test, but wish you could have taken it again to be able to super score and get that higher composite score, just feel free to use our test optional policy. We will not look negatively on an application if they apply test optional. We're not going to think, oh, they must have taken the test and done horribly. We won't think that at all. So please feel free to use this. Also, if you took the test and you didn't do great and you're like, you know what, I'm going to take advantage. This is the silver lining in all of COVID. I'm going to take full advantage of the test optional policy. Feel free to do that. Myself, I was not a good test taker, so I would have 100% taken advantage of the test optional policy. So a few deadlines to go over before I switch gears and talk about aid. At Richmond, we have early decision, early action, and regular decision. Early decision is that binding process. That's for students who know they want to go to Richmond. If they get in, they are committed to coming to Richmond. We have an early decision 1 deadline, which is November 1st, which is crazy. That's right around the corner. And then we also have early decision 2, which is a January 1st deadline. We also have early action, which I encourage all students, if you are not applying early decision, at least apply early action, because you get your application in, you find out by mid-January if you're in or not, and you don't have to decide until May. So it's not a restrictive, it's non-binding, it's a normal application plan, you just find out earlier. But the great thing is that if you apply by November 1st, you are automatically in the running for a full merit-based scholarship to Richmond, because you're applying before our December 1st deadline, which is our merit-based scholarship deadline. I'll get back to that in a second, but just to really reiterate, for early action, really try to get your application in by November 1st. All that needs to be in is your application, your test scores, if you're going to send those in, your recommendation letters, your transcripts. We give you about a month to get all of that collected and sent in for early action. So all you have to do is press submit on your Common Effort Coalition app by November 1. Because regular decision, since we have so many application plans, it's pretty competitive because we don't have a ton of spots left. So really try to get in for early action. So switching gears to talk about financial aid. At Richmond, we have 2 types of aid. We have need-based aid and merit-based aid. For need-based aid, we are very lucky to be an institution of less than 1% in the entire nation that is 100% need blind in the admission process, but meets 100% of demonstrated need. So what that means is when you apply to Richmond, I don't see if you've applied for financial aid. I don't know your family's income. All of that is blocked for me. I don't see any of it, and it doesn't matter to me. I am just looking at you as a student and as an individual. As a committee, we'll make a decision on your application. If we admit you, then your application will go over to our financial aid office. They will looking at your need that is determined through the FAFSA and CSS profile. They will then make your package, which we meet 100% of whatever your demonstrated need is. So that means that we take our total cost of attendance, subtract your estimated family contribution that's determined through FAFSA and CSS profile, and we'll meet 100% of whatever is left over. Something that I love to share with my residents of Virginia, because it's only offered to you all and it's a very special program, is our Richmond's Promise to Virginia. So this is for families whose household income is $60,000 or less. If you are a resident of Virginia and you are admitted to Richmond, then you are eligible for a full tuition, room and board financial aid package. So no loans, it is completely a scholarship that you will not have to pay back. I get calls every year from parents. I represent the majority of Virginia, so they're like, this can't be true. This is too good to be true. I promise it's not. We know that you all have a lot of great public schools to choose from, so we really want to be as affordable as we can to our Virginia residents. So if you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me because it's a very special program for our Virginia residents. So merit-based aid, I mentioned that December 1 deadline. So if you take my advice and you apply early action, you will already be in the running for our Richmond Scholars Program, which is a full tuition, room and board merit-based scholarship. There's about 25 of those students in each incoming class. There's no box you have to check, application you have to fill out, essay you have to write. You just apply by December 1st and you're already in the running. We also have a presidential scholarship, which is our other merit-based scholarship that we decide in the Office of Admission, and that's 1/3 of tuition, and there's about 75 of those in each incoming class, and there is no deadline for that. So anyone who applies to Richmond is eligible to be considered for that. This also lists out a few other scholarships that we have. So I mentioned we are D1, which means that we are able to give some athletic scholarships. We do have Army ROTC scholarships available, and then Bonner Scholars, that is a scholarship for community service that you will not apply for until you are admitted and enrolled in Richmond. So it'll be May of April of your senior year, so you don't have to worry about that right now. That's after the fact. Okay, so I think I left a few moments so that we are able to answer any questions you have. So if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat box and I can get to those now. But the biggest takeaways really are for my seniors, please don't hesitate to take advantage of that test optional policy. Say you sign up to take the November test And you can always apply under the test optional policy. And if you take the test and you do really well and you want to switch, you can switch to test considering, but you can't switch from test considering to test optional. So be mindful of that when you are applying. And then also really try to get in by November 1st for that early action deadline so that you can be considered for that merit-based scholarship. And then keep in mind, regular decision is our most competitive process. So early action is definitely the way to go if you're not considering early decision. Any questions? I know I talked really fast to you all. I appreciate you taking your lunch. Okay. If you do take advantage of test optional policy, did you mention that you should have more than one recommendation letter? Great question. So it's not required that you have an additional letter of recommendation. Our standard policy is that you just have to have one letter of recommendation from your school or college counselor. I just think if we don't have test scores to add to your academic context, it would be helpful to have a recommendation letter from a teacher since we will only have your transcript to go off of. So I always think it's very helpful to have at least one additional letter of recommendation. But this year, especially if you are going test optional, I would highly encourage it, but it is not required. That's just my personal opinion that I think it's helpful, but it is not required. Just the one from your school or college counselor.
Okay, if anybody has any questions, I think we got one that just came in. How many letters of recommendation should I aim to have?
So you'll have the one from your school or college counselor, and then I would advise for 1 or 2 additional letters. So only the one from your school or college counselor is required, but if you wanted to submit additional, 1 to 2 would be advisable. Once you get to 3 or 4, usually they're kind of saying the same thing, and that's a lot for us to read. So 1 or 2 additional letters if you would like. Not required by any means, but you can pick someone in your high school, someone outside your high school. It could be a band director, it could be, if you do community service outside of your high school, a mentor, maybe not mom or dad. We get those every year and they're a little bit biased in how perfect you are, which I'm sure you are, but someone outside of the family is always helpful. So I would say the one from your school or college counselor and then 1 or 2 additional letters would be recommended, but just the one is required.
All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. If you all do have questions, Ms. Bennett, should they reach out to you directly beyond today?
Yeah, you can, that's my email at the bottom of the screen. And again, if you filled out that form, which I will throw that again one more time, the link for anyone who maybe joined late. If you fill out that form, it just asks a few basic questions. You will get an email thanking you for attending. And if you push reply, it comes straight to my email. You can also find my information on our website as well. But yes, please feel free to reach out to me since I am your admission counselor, and I will be one of the people reviewing your application.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. This is great information, and we really look forward to working with you this school year, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you. Good luck with virtual school. Hopefully you guys will be in person very soon. So,
Thank you.
All.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.